Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
Finally, scientists have placed, get this, a worm's mind into a robot's body. Beneath the skin of a simple worm with transparent skin are 302 neurons. Scientists mapped those neurons, and the nervous system has been transplanted into the body of a Lego Mindstorms EV3 robot. You see it there. Most fascinating here, what scientists have found is that rather than just random crazy movements by the robot, that robot actually responded to its environment in the same manner as the biological worm.
So, as computer power doubles every 18 months, it means that every aspect of our life, finance, commerce, health, is going to be turned upside down as we begin to realize that computer power can enrich our lives. This is the world's first bladder, a human bladder that was grown from a young girl's own cells and implanted into that young woman. That was 3 years ago, a development at Wake Forest University where we taped changed history. And within 5 years, we hope to have the first pancreas, the first liver, perhaps even the first kidney. These are the frontier organs that are now being looked at to be grown in the laboratory. The first windpipe was grown just 3 months ago, and in mice, we actually grew an entire heart. An entire mouse heart was grown just last year. And how is it possible? Because computer power means that we can sequence genes, we can put doctors in touch with each other. It has accelerated medical advances.
Changed now that we've actually, first of all, uncovered the software of life. The genome is basically little software programs that not only influence but actually is the reality of biology. Biology is a software process, and we have software running inside us. I mean, how often do you go without updating the software on your cell phone? It does it automatically. This is probably updating itself now as I speak, but I am walking around with outdated software that evolved thousands of years ago when conditions were very different. I would like to tell my fat insulin receptor gene, you don't need to hold on to every calorie anymore. I mean, that was a good idea 1,000 years ago. You worked all day to get a few calories. There were no refrigerators, so you stored them in the fat cells of your body. That was a good idea. That now underlies an epidemic of obesity. The Joslin Diabetes Center near where I work in Boston, and I know the researchers, turned that gene off. We have means now of turning genes off. We have means now of turning genes off. We have means now of turning genes off with RNA interference, for example. And these animals ate ravenously and remained slim, and they didn't get diabetes, they didn't get heart disease, they lived 20% longer, they got the health benefits of caloric restriction while doing the opposite, and they're working with a drug company to bring that to the human market. That's just one of the 23,000 genes we'd like to tinker with. The scientific community is growing artificial organs, new kidneys, livers, lungs. In fact, this company that's doing this gene therapy treatment is also growing new lungs from stem cells. The idea, though, is that health and medicine has become an information technology because we're reprogramming the software of life. But ultimately, it will go inside. We will expand these 300 million pattern recognizers because we will be able to actually recreate them functionally to do exactly what they do in our brain and learn. And quantity results in a different quality. So a ape or a chimpanzee is close to a human.
Do you realize what that means? No. Emasculation to begin with. Then experimental surgery on the speech centers, on the brain. And a kind of living death.
But doesn't have as much neocortex, as we do, particularly because of our frontal cortex, that additional quantity resulted in the qualitative leap of philosophy and language and art and science and technology. So when we expanded it again, which is what I think we will do, we can't even describe what that next qualitative leap will be. I mean, cortex, and we'll do it directly from the brain, and it will be in the cloud because that's where all interesting things happen. I mean, even if you use a mobile device to translate, to search, for something like Siri, it's not done in the phone. It's done out in the cloud. And so that's, you know, we will expand our brains into the cloud.
But for my 2 cents worth, John, I think you put your finger right on it. For them, humanity is a malleable thing. It's something that they can mold and shape and twist and stretch into any shape that they want. And again, they're not really concerned ultimately with what it means to be human in the sense that you and I would use it. What they're aiming at is, as we said in the first segment, they're aiming at this total transformation of human consciousness, and they can remake that into anything that they want it to be as well. So yeah, definitely they view it as something malleable.
Inventor Ray Kurzweil thinks that one day humans may be able to live forever.
I want to live as long as I can. I don't want to die. If following Ray's regimen would put that day off, I would be very willing to do that.
I knew there was a reason I was keeping all this stuff, and he kept all this stuff. I do plan to bring back my father.
Ray Kurzweil has been given the gift of an incredible brain, and he uses it in the way that I think it should, for the betterment of mankind. I asked him how long is he going to live, which he won't answer that question, but he does say, I'm not going to age from this moment on.
Now, a motor protein it's a protein. It's not alive. It is just a large molecule. But it is the lorry of the cell. There are thousands and thousands of motor proteins running around in your cells right now. Trillions upon trillions of them, because you have maybe 100 trillion cells, and each one of them has thousands of motor proteins in it. So there's a lot of these little robots running around inside you. They are not alive. They do not have free will. They are just robots, micro-robots, nano-robots. I raise this because of my slogan, which I want to draw to your attention. I got this from an Italian interviewer, actually philosopher, Giulio Girello, wonderful Italian philosopher, journalist. He interviewed me some years ago, 10 years ago. And I don't know if he's responsible for the article's headline when it came out the next day, but I love it. Sì, abbiamo un'anima, ma è fatta di tanti piccoli robot. Yes, we have a soul, but it's made of lots of tiny robots.
Where have all the good men gone, and where are all the gods? Where's the streetwise herd?
And that is my view. Yes, we have a soul. That is to say, we have the wherewithal for moral responsibility. The thing that we've got is what justifies our being praised and blamed. It's what gives us moral responsibility. It's what gives us free will. And it's made of lots of tiny robots.
He has used the gift that he was given for the betterment of humankind.
Red blood cells that can actually keep us oxygenated for hours, even if we have a heart attack. We'll have robotic white blood cells, which I mentioned, which can destroy cancer. And these devices will go through and repair every cell in our body from disease before it becomes life-threatening.
So these are little blood cell-sized robots that will inject into us, correct?
Right, and they have computers in them. They're smart. They'll be on the internet. We can download new software. So some new disease comes along that we never saw before, we'll actually be able to download new software so that it can combat it. So we will become a hybrid of both biological. So we will become a hybrid of both biological. So we will become a hybrid of both biological and non-biological intelligence.
Well,
Some of these will go in our brain, interact with our biological neurons, and make us smarter, put our brains on the internet, provide full immersion virtual reality from within the nervous system. So these are just a few of the applications.
So this is true life extension because it's restoration versus the deterioration that we're now experiencing.
First of all, I bought this yesterday.
Okay.
With
Thanks.
my debit card.
Thank you very much.
Present. In the year 2099, December 31st, when I walk into a store, hopefully, how will I pay for that?
Well, I think you'll be walking into a virtual store, and most products will be virtual, even food and clothing and everything we need will be virtual. The era of three-dimensional printing is already coming, and we'll be able to download a design for clothing and then print it out, and there'll be open source forms of information, so open source clothing that you can download and then print out with three-dimensional printers at a few pennies per pound. So well before 2099, just about all the physical things we need will be information files. So already I can email you a book or a movie or a sound recording, and I can actually email you today a violin or a guitar, and you can print it out in a three-dimensional printer. There's a band that has all three-dimensional 3D printed instruments.
Yep.
Pretty soon, all the physical things we need, certainly by the 2020s, will be information files. And you'll pay for these with online forms of purchasing, and you'll be able to buy them on online stores. I mean, already online shopping, even for things that we don't print out, is ubiquitous. And that's growing very rapidly, and physical retail is coming down.
Yep.
People still like to go in to feel the clothing and try it on themselves, but we'll be able to take a three-dimensional scan of our bodies and actually see in 3D an avatar of ourselves and see how the clothes looks. And we won't be limited to just the things on the rack and, oh, I love this shirt, oh, it's not available in my size. You'll be able to design, see the clothing on your avatar, then actually have it printed out in not only the right size, but in the exact shape for your body.
So what about the very real pleasure that I personally get from champagne? Will that be gone?
Well, virtual reality is another emerging technology. So already we can do what we're doing now in terms of being together. And there's technologies, rather than just sort of having images on the screen, like with Google Hangout, I can actually sit and look around you and feel like I'm together. There are primitive forms where we can touch each other. Once virtual reality goes inside our brains, and that'll be here by the late 2020s, and basically, I mean, my brain doesn't directly feel things. There's signals going into my brain. We can actually trap those signals and actually send into the brain signals representing a virtual environment. And so the computer will actually create the environment, and then we can be virtual actors in a virtual environment and do any of the things we do in real reality, like be together, hug each other, whatever, in a virtual environment. We can eat in a virtual environment and have that sensual experience, because our brain is receiving these signals as if they were coming from the real world, but it's actually the virtual world. You'll have a body in the virtual world, but it doesn't have to be the same as your physical body. So if you go into something like Second Life today, already people have avatars representing them, and they can look different. Now the avatars over here, although psychological experiments show that people actually identify with that avatar, but in the future it'll actually be like, this is my body and like I'm looking, but I'll actually have a different body. A couple could become each other, for example, and experience their relationship from the other's perspective. But you'll be able to do the things like eating that you do in real reality and have that sensual experience in a virtual environment.
If we move a bit closer to the present time, I'd like you to, you've said that when the timing is right, timing is vital for technology. And in that light, I would like to hear your viewpoint on emerging payment systems such as Bitcoin that changes the paradigm of who's controlling what.
Well, Bitcoin is interesting because it's not just a payment system, it's a whole currency. But I mean, everything is going virtual, and already we pay for most things, even just using credit cards, or, PayPal and so on. We pay for things online. That's going to increase over time. You know, our cell phones will be able to pay for things. So we won't need to handle currency or even carry physical devices around. We'll be able to pay for things virtually. The nature of currency is interesting. I mean, what is currency? It's an agreement of, it's basically a big agreement system among people that everybody respects. You know, even, say, terrorists who have very different views of society than the mainstream society, everybody respects money. It's this big system of agreements that we have. And that will, and it's already been broken away from some kind of physical entity like gold. It's already a very kind of theoretical concept. But certainly payment is already going online.
But what we're seeing is something being decentralized, as opposed to you have like the Federal Reserve or our national bank that sort of runs the show and guarantees the value of this currency.
Well, you brought up a good term, decentralization. That's the nature of the future. The 21st century technologies are decentralized rather than centralized. So the internet is decentralized. Some piece of it goes down, the information just goes around it. There's an inherent stability to decentralized technology. There's new water technologies where right locally you can create very clean water at very low cost. Dean Kamen's slingshot machine costs $2,000, can meet the water needs of 100 people. They're already putting it in third world countries. Coca-Cola has gotten behind that. Can take any kind of water, swamp water or salt water, and create drinkable water at very low cost. Decentralized energy is coming. Solar power is doubling every 2 years. It's already over 1% of our energy. People say, oh, 1%, it's kind of a fringe player. They're ignoring the exponential growth. 1% is only 7 doublings from 100%, and it's doubling every 2 years. And then, so I presented this to the Prime Minister of Israel recently. He was actually in my class in the 1970s at the MIT Sloan School, and he said, Ray, do we have enough sunlight to do this with? And I said, yes, we have 10,000 times more than we need. So we're actually awash in energy, we're awash in water. They're just not in usable form, but the technologies to make them usable are growing exponentially. 20 years from now, we'll get all of our energy from very low-cost renewable sources, and they'll be decentralized. Water will be decentralized. Food will be created in decentralized vertical agriculture, automated facilities.
So all these really big global politics on energy and fossil fuels and how we will drive our cars, is everybody running in the wrong direction? Will technology solve these problems?
I don't think they're running in the wrong direction, but I think a lot of the concerns that, we're running out of energy and so on are wrong, because they're ignoring the emerging decentralized solutions that ultimately be very low cost, and they're based on information technologies. Solar power is being promoted by nanotechnology, which is a form of information technology, and the costs are coming down dramatically, and the amount is going up exponentially. It's really these exponentially growing decentralized technologies that will solve the major challenges of humanity.
So with regards to your job at Google, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So what is it like? What do you do there?
Well, I was actually presented my latest book to Larry Page, How to Create a Mind. We met in July. He had read an early version of pre-publication version. He really liked it, and he invited me to join Google to basically apply those ideas to creating, artificial intelligence. To really guide the future of Google. The goal is to increasingly base search and question answering on the actual meaning of documents and not just finding keywords. If if you write a blog post, you've got some content to show. You're not just creating an interesting bag of words. We would like to actually understand and model the semantic meaning of your blog post and all the other billions of pages on the web and all the billions of book pages, and so that you can actually talk things over with your search engine, and we'll really understand at a deep level what you're looking for, and we'll understand all the information that's out there and find information not just based on keywords.
A lot of people at the moment seem concerned about privacy, and you have this, people I think see them as the sort of evil machines that knows everything about me, and especially the company that you work for knows tons about me and privacy. How will that develop? Will I just have to say, okay, when I'm not in a Swedish forest and totally not connected, it's goodbye privacy, or?
Well, not at all. I mean, there's tremendous effort at Google to maintaining privacy. There's literally thousands of engineers to keep information private. And it's not just to keep it private within Google, but to prevent outside forces coming in and accessing that information. And that's a complicated technical problem, but information at Google is actually very secure. And the goal is to bring each person valuable services so that you can find the information that you need. You can find the pizza place, you can get help with your reservations, and your car can drive itself. I mean, we want to deliver real services. It's not the intention to invade privacy. It's actually a very great trust. 500 million people use Gmail, and so Google takes that very seriously and wants to provide services that you want without using the information for anything else. And, so I'm not the expert on explaining the privacy policies, but that is the goal, is to provide valuable services and to maintain the security of this information.
Going back to the champagne, could you try and be very specific and how will I pay for it? What will be the currency? What's the method?
I think currencies are evolving. I mean, there's a particular algorithm behind Bitcoin, and whether that really holds up or not is unclear, but I think we will have decentralized forms of currency. Bitcoin is an attempt to create a decentralized currency that's not controlled by countries. I think we'll have emerging currencies like that. We already have, there's thousands of different stocks you can buy. That's a form of currency, and those are decentralized. And so it's hard to predict what will catch on, but I think it will be decentralized. And artificial intelligence will note that you bought a product and will adjust accounts accordingly. There's going to be a lot of open source information. Three-dimensional printing will print out the things we need. And so take clothing. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of really cool designs you can download for free, print out for pennies per pound on your three-dimensional printer. I can email you, oh, here's this great new shirt. And I can email it to you and you can print it out. People will still spend money for proprietary forms. We see that already in music and movies and books. There's millions of those free products that you can have a very good time with, but people still spend money for their latest blockbuster or for Harry Potter or for music from their favorite artist. You have a coexistence of open source and proprietary forms of information, and that will be true in every industry.
So what in this virtual world, what will value be? Like, because you're talking about that the price of everything drops, and you can sort of, whenever the whole world is digitized, you could just...
Well, it's for proprietary forms of information. I mean, look at music, movies, and books as a forerunner of that. That's pure information, and you spend money for a book, and you get it as an ebook, and it's just information. Now, there's also free books. And there's millions of free books. You could never finish reading all the free books. You still spend money for proprietary books because you want to read that book. And you're going to spend money for a hot design from the latest hot designer for clothing, even though you can get very good free designs. And you're going to have this coexistence of open source and proprietary forms of information. And that's the nature of value, information that people want to acquire and are willing to pay for.
All right, great. Thank you very much. This bottle, when I went and bought it, I went into the store and said, do you have a champagne that will keep till 2099? And he said, that's hard, that's a long time, you need to store it just right. But this is a 2004, I drank one
just the other day. He said it keeps well. Do you
Okay.
think that you'll be able to enjoy that bottle at that time?
Well, if not, we'll create one just like it.